What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two Knicks Chicks. I'm your girl, Lady, and the chef. Want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. Wanted to have an episode where pretty much we go over what does this Knicks front office need to do this off season. We all know that the Knicks front office has a busy off season, and as far as what do they need to do. Um, and then it begs the question of whether this Knicks front office needs to be aggressive. Um, but do they want to utilize the assets that they have as far as the trades go? Or do they feel like they just want to run it back and worry about just paying guys out? I think that there's a lot of questions still there as far as what this team's going to do. Quite honestly, I think this Knicks team front office is going to keep who they currently have and maybe add a little bit of help in certain areas of this team. Certain areas like one of the things I wanted to talk about was support in the front court, um, a backup point guard. We need somebody who can score behind Jalen Brunson, who can bring up the ball as well. Someone who has actually good ball handling skills and not someone who's just mediocre at bringing up the ball. Because, like I said before, if that's the case, then we'll just keep having Deuce McBride bring up the ball. But I think if the Knicks are able to get a solid point guard on this team, someone to back up Brunson, one, Brunson can actually get the rest that he needs during whatever time period of rest Tom Thibodeau puts him on the bench, and doesn't have to rush to put him back in the game because the team has to worry about the second unit, maybe not maintaining the lead or getting dysfunctional because they don't really have that uh, leader and a point guard, right? So I think that being able to have someone who's solid to fulfill that position will help out. And then also, you don't have to worry about Deuce McBride bringing up the ball. I think having Deuce be able to play that catch and shoot and be able to catch and the ball and do what he go to work and do what he does, that's going to be at an advantage for this next team instead of having him to bring up the ball and then it kind of takes him out of his game somewhat because he has to focus on playing that point guard position instead of being able to just slide, play that wing position, do what he does best in shooting. And we all know his shot is going to get better as he will work on that part of his game in the offseason. Who knows? There may be some other facets to his game that he'll be able to bring for next season. But I think that this Knicks team for sure is going to need a solid backup point guard for Jalen Brunson. I think that's one of the main things that outside of paying guys who we already have, that's for me, I believe is going to be on their agenda as far as figuring out who they can bring into this team who can cover scoring, who can be able to um, be a backup power forward to Randall when he goes and sits down, right? So I think those are just for me outside of paying both Randall and Brunson, who are both have an extension eligible for this Knicks team, right? So they're due for some nice paydays for the Knicks team, both of them. And I don't think the Knicks front office is going to be silly and allow Brunson and Randall to walk as we didn't even get a full season of them playing together healthy. So I think this front office is going to want to see how both Randall, Brunson, OG Anunoby can play together while healthy. So I do believe they are going to run it back. I think it's smart to run it back instead of bringing in a ton of new pieces or a ton of rookies who don't know the system here, who need development. Listen, this next team is on a run of a mission of where they're trying to go. And I don't think that they're trying to regress and go backwards. I think that they have a goal in mind. And I especially think for next year, the goal is to definitely get to the Eastern Conference finals as well as the finals, right? This Knicks team has proven that they are a playoff bound team, that they can get to the first and second round. I think with a healthy Knicks team, as long as they can maintain health and wellness throughout the season, this team can get to the Eastern Conference finals. But I think outside of taking care of Randall's extension deal, Brunson's extension deal, then you also have to figure out, okay, what is the Knicks going to do as far as the center position, right? I think there's still like this question mark of like, what is this Knicks team going to do? You have Isaiah Hartenstein, you have Mitchell Robinson, and then you still have Precious Achiuwa, who teams are interested in him as well, right? But I think the first two guys, right, or the first guy we should talk about and mention is Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein has proved himself this past season playing lights out for this Knicks team. One, he remained healthy. And I think that also goes overlooked in that the fact that he was able to remain healthy and stay on this Knicks team proves value on its own. And it wasn't just the fact that he was healthy, it was what he was doing on the floor for this Knicks team between the passing, the shot blocking, the rebounding, the assists, the setting the screens. It was just a lot of the little things that he did that really proved his value to any team, not just this Knicks team, but any team in the league who'll be grateful to have him. I think he's an asset to any team, and he's for sure an asset to this Knicks team, right? But having him play the whole season spoke volumes because you got to look at it like this. If Isaiah Hartenstein wasn't healthy and not having a healthy Mitchell Robinson for the majority of the season, the Knicks would have really been in trouble. Who was your other option? Achiuwa and Jericho Sims? You wouldn't have gotten the production like you got out of Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, right? So I think that it was a blessing that he was able to stay healthy throughout this season and be able to produce and show his value on this team and as well as any other team. And I'm sure there's other teams that are looking at him. So I think with Hartenstein being an unrestricted free agent, the way he played, he boosted his earning potential, rightfully so. He's worth the payday that he's going to be asking for. It's a matter of, can the Knicks be able to pay him what he's looking for, right? They only could give him but so much, being that I believe Mitchell Robinson's owed like $27.3 million over the next two seasons. So I think that's something to think about. But I think point guard, backup point guard, the center position needs to be worked on as well, as far as Isaiah Hartenstein and keeping him around, which I think if the Knicks are smart, they will do that and keep him around, as there's really no other centers in the league that are really available. A lot of teams are holding on to who they have, whether they're building around that player. And then, quite frankly, the college draft is not as strong this season. There's a lot of like a shuffle of players who are decently good players, right? But no one that's a Zion Williamson, no one that's a Anthony Davis that stands out. Oh, Victor Wembanyama, who's, teams are going to be like, yeah, I want that guy. So, and then within the league, there's really no one really available. It's very slim pickings of the options that not just the Knicks, but any team could possibly go after. So I think that the Knicks need to figure out paying Isaiah Hartenstein, coming to a middle ground and being able to pay him what he's looking for or come very close to it. You don't want to have a situation like what happened with Emmanuel Quickley, where the Knicks were short a few million. I think it was like 7. And Emmanuel Quickley said, I'm out. He wanted what he wanted. He was looking to get a bag. Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be looking to get paid as well. And you can't fault him. He kept us alive in a lot of games for just what he did. Like I said, his value to this team is very high. So point guard, like I said, backup point guard for Jalen Brunson, right behind Jalen Brunson. The Knicks have to figure out a center, contract extensions for both Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson. And then I think the other thing that this front office has to do as part of their to-do list is re-signing OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby fits on this team like a glove. I think the only question mark, if you're a real true Knicks fan, is the fact that OG Anunoby tends to suffer from injuries. He's very injury prone. However, when he is playing and he's healthy, the impact that he has on this Knicks team far outweighs his injuries. You know, yes, he gets injuries, he suffers an injury here and there. But I kind of honestly think that this Knicks front office already knew that when they were working out the deal with Toronto, who the Knicks had issues with and beef with. They still were able to get to the bottom line and make the trade happen with Toronto. So that speaks about volumes on its own, which makes me feel more confident in that this front office can make deals happen, right? But they want to make the deals make sense. And I think with OG Anunoby, bringing him here, um, and keeping him here on this Knicks team, it makes sense for this Knicks team for them to be able to do. So I think that he wants what he wants as well. OG's going to want to get paid and he wants to be able to make his money. But at the same time, do I think it's smart for the Knicks to keep OG Anunoby? Yes. I don't think it's smart to let him walk. He adds value to this team. And that's something that this Knicks needs, quite honestly. He provides ample scoring. He can steal the ball. He can rebound the ball. And also, he brings the ball to the basket. I say that a lot about him because that's one of my favorite things that he does. He's not afraid to bring the ball to the basket, like a player like Julius Randle, like a Jalen Brunson. He will bring the ball to the basket, no hesitation, and I like that about him. Just the hustle plays, and that's what this New York Knicks team is about, and I like that about him. So, I just think that you gotta pay OG, you gotta pay Hartenstein, you gotta make sure that you keep Jalen Brunson around and Julius Randle around. Honestly, if the Knicks front office is not able to find someone to the level of Julius Randle's game and better, there's no reason why you should be getting rid of Julius Randle. His scoring was missed in the postseason. Round one, round two, there's several games that were played that, I truly believe if Julius was around, it would have made a heck of a difference in the playoffs. And I think that having him there and being such a pivotal scorer that he is, it takes the pressure off of Jalen. You have someone else that can provide ample scoring. Then once you can have both of those two guys and add OG Anunoby, and all of them can play throughout the regular season and remain healthy, we can really see what this Knicks can do if we run it back. As far as OG Anunoby, I feel like if he can at least give the Knicks a solid 60, 65 games he can play throughout the regular season, I'll take it. I'll take it. Now, if he has a tweak with the elbow or some kind of injury, as long as it's not major, he doesn't have to miss a lot of time, and he can be ready for the playoffs. Great. Like I said, I'll take it. I think it'll be an addition to this Knicks team, but this guy holds value for wherever he goes. And I thought it was a great signing for the Knicks to bring him over. Like I said, Jalen Brunson, he's eligible for an extension this summer. It's rumors that he may not take it. And I know New York is going to offer him the largest extension that they can for 4 years, 156 million. If Brunson declines that, then he declines his player option for 25-26 season, and then he'll become a free agent this summer of 2025. And he could re-sign with the Knicks for 5 years, around 270 million. So either way, he's gonna get that bag, and rightfully so, because he's worthy and deserving of it all. Randall's contract extension that he's eligible for is worth up to 181.5 million for 4 years. It gives New York Knicks a little bit more than a month of free agency to figure out what they want to do. If there's no player available, the Knicks can't make a deal in August, then, they can talk about an extension with Randle. But again, I don't see the Knicks doing that. Like I said, I think this front office is going to want to run it back, keep Randle, keep Brunson, and do what they can to sign OGN as well as pay Hartenstein. So we'll see what happens. OG Anunoby has a 19.9 billion player option that he will decline. He will test free agency. Again, I understand. I'm not going to fault him for that. It is a business at the end of the day. You know, as much as you may have ties and like guys playing on your favorite team, just like how Emmanuel quickly, it was business at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I mean, was this Knicks team a better team once the Knicks got rid of him and RJ Barrett? Yes. But it still boils down to the money and the numbers, you know, and guys are going to go wherever the money lies at. This is why Alex Burke is not going to be a Knicks next year. He signed with Clutch. He's looking to get a bag, and he's going to get paid because he showed in the playoffs after not playing for a while for the Knicks that he's capable of getting the money that he's going to be looking for because he can provide the scoring, right? He was stinking up the joint when he was here in the regular season, could have get it together. And I just think that was just like just awful jitters from playing on a being good on a bad team and then coming to a team that's good and is a playoff bound team and a better playing team and a winning team, and you're just not. I don't know. I'm trying to describe the coming being a good player on a bad team and then coming to a really good team, which is one of your old teams, but it's not the old team that you used to play for. This is a completely new regime, a completely different team here. So that's that, right? Um, but like I said, as far as OG Anunoby, he wants to be in New York, but it's ultimately about the money. OG Anunoby's new salary would be uh, north of around 30 million a season, maybe closer to 35. New York will most likely pay him that to keep him, right? If they're smart, they'll do that. Um, I think it's also because he matters on his team. It's the value, it's the impact that he brings. And the New York's win percentage is higher when OG Anunoby plays. So that's that. And that speaks volumes on its own. So keep him. And then as far as Isaiah Hartenstein, he'll be a free agent. And New York has early bird rights to him, rightfully so. It's what they do as far as what they're able to provide and counter at to give him what he's looking for. They can offer him 4 years, 72.5 million. And let me see, another team. Yeah, pretty much they need to be able to pay Isaiah Hartenstein. If not, another team. I wanted to make sure I got the numbers right. If they can't, um, you know, that would really suck. I don't see the Knicks doing that. I just think it's a matter of coming close to what he's looking for and the payday that Isaiah Hartenstein is looking to get, right? That's what really matters at the end of the day. Like, are they able to pay him what he's looking for? I understand and honestly, the Knicks got Mitch at a really good contract deal, right? Just like they did with Deuce McBride, got his contract at 3 years, a good contract deal. They got Mitch at a really good steal of a deal. And I think they're going to try to do that with Isaiah Hartenstein, but still be able to pay him around what he's looking for. And hopefully he sticks around. Like, I hope that he's happy with that. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stay here. I know he wants to be a Knick, but again, it's about the money. You know, it's about guys can say all they want. Yeah, I want to stay here. I'm happy here. But if they're not getting paid what they're looking for, and a lot of times they walk wherever other teams are going to be offering them the bag. So, like, we'll recap again, the Knicks will need a backup point guard. That's for sure. They're going to need that. And someone who could not just bring the ball up, but help out with scoring. They're going to need to make sure that they figure out this whole extension eligibility and work out the numbers with paying both Brunson and Randall, who are both eligible for extensions. And then this team is going to have to figure out the whole center ordeal with Isaiah Hartenstein and pay him the money that he's looking for. They're going to have to figure out the whole ordeal with OG Anunoby and pay him what he's looking for to keep him around, considering he's testing free agency. And I still think that the Knicks also do need to look into another wing, a scorer here who can provide scoring here, who can come off the bench and Not that we're just relying on Deuce McBride and Dante DiVincenzo for scoring, right? Whether he starts or not or coming off the bench, it doesn't matter. Like I said this in the last episode, this whole ordeal of like who's starting, who's coming off the bench. I think what matters more is if Tibbs calls your number and you come in, can you produce when you get on that floor? When you get on that hardwood and you get on the court, can you produce and be able to give this team what they're looking for, and whatever the capacity that may be? But I think that we do need another scoring option aside from Randall, Brunson, Dante, Deuce. You need somebody else who can provide ample scoring. As sometimes with this Knicks team, the offense could become very stagnant and no one's really looking to make a move unless it's really Brunson, Randall, and OG who will eventually just take it to the rim. So, I think with that's right now is the to-do list. Pay the guys who are already on the team. So you got to pay OG, Hartenstein, Jalen, and Julius. And then we need to figure out I think the front office needs to figure out who do we bring in as a backup point guard, as I don't think it's right to have Jalen Brunson bringing up the ball every game next season. Like, can he get a freaking break? I mean, just a here and there. Can he get a break? I don't think he needs to bring up the ball every time. And honestly, I think that'd be to the Knicks' advantage if Jalen Brunson doesn't have to bring up the ball every time and you can have someone else bringing up the ball. And I don't want to see Randall bringing up the ball. I don't want to see Josh Hart bringing up the ball. I want an actual point guard bringing up the ball and somebody who can dish it to Randall, somebody who can dish it to Brunson, who can dish it to Deuce McBride. And those guys can go to work once they get the ball, right? That can be an advantage to the Knicks offensively to their game. I think that right now is the to-do list for this front office to do and take care of, is see what they can do and making that happen. It's going to be a very busy offseason. I don't agree that this team needs an all-star. I think they just need to get the right players in place, and not a lot of players, maybe two may be it. That may be able to lock the final pieces together so that way we can be well. There was a lot of people in the comments of our last video who said that they felt like they want to see the Knicks front office just run it back. And all this team needs is healthiness, health and wellness. And while I agree with that, I challenge to ask you, Knicks fans and the Knicks community out there, is that all that it's going to take for this Knicks team to run it back and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, to the finals, to the championship round? I think we have to consider and use this past season as a lesson learned. We didn't have solid backups. And again, no one can control or predict injuries, right? And any sport, injuries is going to happen. But I think that us having to take the bench and all of a sudden make them starters, as Diva Locks had to check me on and let me know that, because I was a big opponent on the Knicks didn't have a solid bench. And to some degree, I still kind of stand on that, because I feel like while we have guys that are capable of doing well on the bench when they go in, and it's no knock on them, even if with them starting, but even if they were still coming off the bench, I think that there were times where we saw we were missing a solid point guard for the second unit, for the bench unit, right? And then I wanted to see some of the role players become playmakers at times. And I understand that that's not their game. But this is why I think that if we get that one or two guys who is a playmaker, can add an advantage to this Knicks team on the offensive side of the game. So if you can get another guy or two who can provide scoring as well as other intangible things that they do, it'll be an advantage to this Knicks team. And it takes the pressure off having the same two, maybe three guys have to go to work. Some nights guys are going to be off. Brunson may be off, Randall may be off, OG may be off. So who else steps up and can provide scoring? I applaud this Knicks team for not getting blown out. I think the only time we saw them do that was when the second round, when they had that awful, what was it, game 4, or game 3 against Indiana, I've moved on from the playoffs. It took me a while, but it wasn't as hard as it was the previous year before, right? But I think that this team right now, aside from paying the guys who we have, whether they're extension eligible, they're free agents, pay who we have now, bring them back. That's the smart thing to do. And then I do think that we need to focus on bringing in a backup point guard and some kind of tall, if preferably tall wing player who can is a good shooter, who can knock down the three, who can give you a mid-range shot, who can knock down free throws. Someone who's aggressive, who's gritty, who can play on the Tibbs system, and willing to hustle on defense, offense, whatever the team needs. As this team, everybody knows their role. And someone who stays ready. Now, I think that there are some questions as far as when you go deeper down the line. Do the Knicks keep Jericho Sims? Does Shake Milton get some burn and get some time on the court next season? I think he should. If the Knicks were able to see something clearly in Deuce McBride, I'm sure a lot of it was in practices. The little bit of time he was getting. I remember there was games sometimes Deuce was only getting 2 to 4 minutes if he was lucky. But I don't want to see Shake become one of those players who only comes in if the Knicks have a 20-point lead late in the fourth and then Tibbs clears out the starters and then puts him in. I would like to see him get that opportunity as he can become another option for this team when you need to sit down Deuce, when you need to sit down Dante or Josh. Like, you can bring him in replacement of one of them when you're giving them a breather. This way we have options. And I understand that in the postseason, many coaches shorten their roster, right? It's not going to be a 10-man rotation, again, but I don't think 7-6 is going to be doable for us. And understandable, we had injuries. But I think if Tibbs has options and he's able to see what a lot of different guys and options he can play around with for the offense, that's going to help this Knicks team in the long run. So I'm confident that this front office is going to be able to pay the guys that are on this team, right? They're going to be able to pay Randall, Jalen Brunson, because it would be really silly not to be able to keep those guys. And that's not even a question. I think the bigger question is Isaiah Hartenstein and OG Anunoby, right? They have to make sure that they don't go over the luxury tax and that they can pay iHeart and that they can keep OG Anunoby around, who, again, I understand that he's injury prone. But I really believe that this front office knew that from the rip when they first got him, and back in January when they did the trade with Toronto. They knew that OG was injury prone. But I think they're going to look at it like, if OG can play 60, 65 games in a regular season and maybe he can't play, 10, 15 games, I believe the front office will look past that and say, okay, we can do this. And who knows, they may have some kind of injury clause in his contract, right? It's about business. You got to be realistic at the same time. But if he can be healthy and be ready for the playoffs, right, and can rebound in and come back in, then great. I think that this team will for sure look to signing him, and he'll be ready and an asset to this team when it really matters in the postseason. Julius Randle gave a shoulder update. So 2 months after having surgery, seems like his recovery is going well. I know the last he spoke on it was on NBA Unplugged with Kevin Hart during Game 4 of Boston and Indiana game. And he pretty much just said, I spent 2.5 months rehabbing before. So when I came out of shoulder surgery, I was recovering pretty fast. All my muscles around my shoulder are strong. So I've been healing up great, been taking my time. I'm not in a rush, but I like where I'm at for sure. So listen, that's really good news. We know that the Knicks medical staff did say that they were going to reevaluate him in training camp in September. and we'll see how he's doing. But listen, I think him having the surgery when he did was a great idea, because I think if he would have waited or tried to play in the postseason, he would have made it worse. So Randall will be ready. There's no question about that. The way he was playing last season, if he can, which he will, give us that next season, this team is going to be like, the Knicks are really going to be a problem next season, because we didn't really get to play with a healthy squad, and that sucked. We really had a severe man down situation, but for next year, we won't have to worry about that. So, good to hear Julius Randle is recovering well. His shoulder is feeling better. He's been rehabbing. Happy to hear that. And I'm looking forward to see who the updated news on him in September when that comes along, and how he's doing. So, salute to the chat. Salute Coach SAR 617. He said we need to tackle this draft first and foremost. I agree. We don't know how free agency will turn out, so solidifying what we can in the draft. Yeah, you're right. We don't know how the free agency is going to turn out. I think that's what makes this is going to make a very interesting, busy offseason, because there's not really there's a slim pickings of who's available for the Knicks to take, I think. And then the incoming draft is a little, I think there's good players available, but they're not like your first top 10 players that a team would choose. These are like guys who will be in the 20th percentile, in my opinion. Looks like we can bring back Shake for the low and see what he brings in camp. Yeah, I hope that the Knicks does that. I hope that the Knicks give Shake an opportunity to prove what he can do. And a lot of times I always keep going back to how the Knicks were able to do that with Deuce McBride. And why I always love Deuce is because, unlike when we had Grimes, Jericho, Deuce actually showed signs of improvement, developing. His game was developing each year, each season we had him. And I think with Shake, it can be the same thing, where this team can say, oh, wow, I'm seeing a growth in his game. And Tibbs can put him in for a couple of minutes here and there, and he can show the growth and that he's been working on his game. And Tibbs can build that trust to put him in the game. So I really hope that the Knicks are able to find a way to bring him back, allow him to play in training camp, and Tibbs can somehow build some trust to give him minutes here and there. I'm not even asking for a whole lot of minutes, but if you can play him a couple of minutes, let him get a feel for the game in real time and play with this Knicks team, not with the third string unit, but with like the first and the bench unit, I think that that's going to make the difference, and this Knicks team can be able to keep him, and Tibbs can build some trust to play him, right? CM67 salute says, sounds like they're choosing OG over Julius and Kuzma. Makes less and is controlled 3 years. I don't think, but honestly, CM, I don't think that the Knicks are looking to get rid of Julius. And honestly, while Kyle had a decline in scoring and just his overall stats in Washington, I think that's also because he was playing on a bad team. Not making any excuses for him, but I think Kyle Kuzma, one thing he does have, like a Julius Randle, he can remain healthy, right? So that's a big factor as well, being that was an issue that we had dealt with last season, was unfortunate injuries. The health was an issue with this Knicks team. But I think that Kyle Kuzma, yeah, he makes less, but I don't know if he would be preferred over Julius Randle. To me, Julius is stronger. He can give you more. I think if they were somehow able to find a way to keep Kyle as a possible coming off the bench guy, maybe, right? But I just don't see them necessarily having to choosing um, Kuzma over Julius and then OG. I think OG, because he's testing free agency, yeah, the Knicks they're on their heels. Their backs are against the wall because they have to make sure that they stay aggressive and they're able to pay OG what he's looking for and to keep him around. And I know some Knicks fans, like I was saying earlier, they're not fond of necessarily keeping OG because of the injuries, right? But I also think of it like this. Like if we're able to keep Mitchell Robinson around, who's very injury prone, but when he's healthy, he plays very well. Mitch was on a tear at the start of the season. Then you could do the same thing for OG Anunoby and keep him around as well. You know, you just sign him at the right contract, give him the deal. I think he's worth the money. He's proven that he's worth the money. And the Knicks are a better team when OG is out on the floor. So I just think that the Knicks have to be able to. They're on their toes this off season. Keep both iHeart and Mitch unless we get priced out by OKC. Yeah, I agree. I don't think there should be any getting rid of either center. You know, I think that Mitch has lost his starting spot to Isaiah Hartenstein for sure. Isaiah Hartenstein will be the starter. And I just think my only concern is if iHeart was to suffer an injury, now you have Mitch coming in. Can Mitch be able to stay healthy long enough until Hartenstein was able to come back? These are just hypotheticals that, as a front office, you have to consider, right? We were able to get Isaiah Hartenstein to stay healthy for all of last season because Mitch suffered injuries, but can we get the reversal if Isaiah Hartenstein suffers a injury? Can Mitchell Robinson hold it down until he comes back? I think that's something else that the front office has to consider. But I do agree. I think you keep both iHeart. The Knicks need to pay him what he's looking for. You have Mitch on a great deal. But unless, I agree, unless there's a better deal on the table, then the Knicks need to look to make a move for a better center. But for right now, these two both work well for this Knicks team. You said let Precious walk. Yeah, I know there's a few teams that's interested in Precious. So I'm not sure if the Knicks are going to keep him, to be honest. I think that the Knicks may end up letting Precious go. But yeah, I don't know. You know, with Precious, I think he had moments where he came in the game and we saw this like amazing defense. He was blocking shots, getting rebounds, but then he had times where he came in a game and he was missing easy layups. Like he was right at the basket wide open and was missing easy layups, easy baskets. And then I just think sometimes like his energy, it took him a little while to like get into the groove of games. But once he did, he had, for the most part, he was able to, you know, have good games. But there was a lot of other games where, as a Knicks fan, you were frustrated because you were like, what is this guy doing? And I know initially when he came over, there was some Knicks fans who were like, get rid of him. He has butterfingers, slippery hands. He can't catch a ball. He can't catch a pass. I necessarily wasn't on that bandwagon just because I was like, well, let me see what he can do. Like, I feel like he's adjusting. When he was on Toronto, he wasn't getting any run like he really should have had because Toronto had the talent already in place. He got to the Knicks. Tibbs was able to give him an opportunity, especially because Randall had went down with the injury. He started getting more playing time. Then you had Mitch go down, so he was able to get the playing time, and he proved that he looked like, well, wow, I found a home. You know, he's from New York. He looks happy playing here. I just don't know if it's enough for this Knicks team to be able to keep him for the long run, right? So I I don't know. Exactly. The Knicks can't pay everybody. Like everybody's not going to be able to get a check, you know, but I think that certain key guys you have to be able to pay them. But I think, you know, this comment is prime example to a guy like Precious Achua. Everyone's not going to be able to get paid. And Leon is making sure, as well as the rest of the front office team, they're going to do what they need to do to make sure who needs to get paid gets paid first. And then whoever they have to let go and do their trade deals with, they're going to do it. They're going to make it happen. That's why I push for Cat so much. He can be the starting power forward and play center if they both go down. That's a good point. But my question to you, coach, is do you think that Minnesota will not want to keep Karl Anthony Towns? You know, because like I was alluding to a couple of minutes ago, I feel like a lot of teams, unless the money makes sense and the math is mathing, a lot of teams are going to hold on to guys. And I think especially because Minnesota has made such a far run this season, like would it make sense for them to allow another team to come in and just snatch up Cat, or do they keep him like how you've heard rumors about, oh, Embiid or Giannis would make a good fit on this Knicks team? Philly's not going to give up Embiid. They're building a team around Embiid and Maxey. Giannis unfortunately suffered that injury, but Minnesota, Milwaukee's his team, you know, and with him and Dame, I think they need to see a little bit more. How does that work together? I don't think Doc is the coach for that team, but okay, you bring Cat here, so that means you're saying you can't keep Mitch, and then you have iHeart and a Karl Anthony Towns. He makes too much money. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little like on the fence with that because I see where you're the angle you're coming from, right? Because he can play both positions. He can score. He can be a threat in that power forward center position because now the defense has to watch out for him. If Karl Anthony Towns came to this Knicks team, the Knicks would have an option as you can dump the ball down in the paint instead of having your center position playing more at the top of the key as like a Hartenstein does. Mitch plays closer to the basket. Hartenstein, because he has the passing ability, he plays a bit more up. And then he tries to, you know, high screen and roll, or he looks for the pass down low. But if you have a Karl Anthony Towns, you can pass him the ball. He can either score, he can hit the three. So there's more versatility there offensively. So I can see that as well. But exactly, the Knicks do need to find a diamond in the draft, and I hope that this Knicks team can do that. Like, I think old Knicks wouldn't really get good, suitable draft picks. We either would get guys that were just not good once they got like live playing NBA basketball. They just weren't good or they weren't ready. Guys who were just total busts, guys who were injury prone. Like we really haven't had like the best of luck of bringing in like good, like a diamond in the rough that we're like, man, where the Knicks found this guy at? You know, so I'm hoping that the scouts, they could do a good job bringing in somebody who's just like truly that, a diamond in the rough, somebody who could just the versatility in their game, and they can give you a little bit of everything, man. So if the Knicks can find that, I'm all for it. Brunson, Dante, OG, Cat, iHeart. Very interesting. Shape, Deuce, Hart, Where, Mitch. Power Struggle Salute said, OG great for us, but I don't think he's better than a Paul George, for instance. OG gotta accept a little less or boy bye. Yeah. But does Paul George injuries like OG, is that a concern? Because like OG, Paul George also, I mean, you know, he ain't to the level of Kawhi who just disappeared. But Paul George, minus this past season, he's normally not available for the playoffs. But would he be a viable option for this Knicks team if the Knicks were to bring him here? Because he also gets paid a lot of money. He gets paid a lot of money, Paul George. And like I said, I've heard Knicks fans say, well, as far as OG's concerned, it's the injuries. It's the injuries that's concerning for them. So is that concerning when it comes to Paul George? Is it the injuries that can be concerning for you as well? Salute TJ Blue. He said, would be nice to at least get a solid 70 games from OG next season. I agree. If OG can give, I even said 60, 65 games, right? But 70 is even better. If he only needs to miss about 10 games, great. I'll take it. I'll take it. As long as he's ready and healthy to perform in the playoffs, I'll take it. I'm not even going to complain. Randall has too much untimely bad luck for me. Break the curse. Do you mean as far as his injuries? What do you mean? Because his game-wise, Randall's game's gotten better. But I think the unfortunate bad luck, I think Randall's not necessarily injury prone. He's been injured by dirty plays from dirty players, right? And those are just unfortunate injuries that he's had to unfortunately suffer the past 2 seasons. But if he was a player like a Paul George or OG, a Mitchell Robinson, who every year you're like, damn, this guy always got something wrong. He needed surgery on this. He injured that. Then I would be like, well, you know what? Randall does unfortunately suffer a lot of injuries, but I don't think that, it sucks. It is untimely bad luck, but I just think it's part of the game. You're playing, and look at the 2 injuries they were on Miami Heat players. Go figure. So I don't know. I think Randall should still stay. I think he's definitely worth it. Salute Angel Ramos. Hopefully Randall will be ready to go by training camp. I think Randall will be ready. So they're going to reevaluate him and his shoulder in September. And I think Randall will be ready to go. I think Randall also, if you paid attention in the postseason, Randall had this look like he wanted to be on the court so bad to help his team. Right? Round 1 and round 2. Like, you can see he was proud of what this team was doing. Like, damn, these guys are holding it down. But Randall had that look like, if I was out there, I can help them out. Right? I can give Brunson a little bit of help. And I noticed it in round 1 against Philly. Even though the Knicks got out of round 1, a lot of those wins were the Knicks barely scraped by. Like, the games were really close. While it made for an entertaining round 1, I think if the Knicks had Randall, I'm not saying they would have blown Philly out, but it would have gave them a little bit more cushion and comfort, and that they had someone else scoring, and it wasn't necessarily just falling on 1-2 guys. And it takes the pressure off of Brunson, because remember, Nick Nurse didn't even want Brunson bringing the ball up. He had the full court press on him. Between Oubre and Batum, they were guarding him like, white on rice. He couldn't even get the ball. So, I think that Randall will be ready. I think the biggest thing is guys have to remain healthy. Guys have to remain healthy throughout this regular season. That's the key, that guys stay healthy. This way, this Knicks team can be well and flourish in the postseason, which is, needed. Randall operates in the same space as Brunson, so they really don't complement each other. They just take turns on the ball. You don't think they complement each other? I can see where you're totally coming from. I can totally see where you're coming from. I think initially when Randall came, they didn't complement each other. And then once Randall and Brunson was able to work out their trust issues, it worked out. I think, I don't know. I think sometimes both of them can have a little bit of ISO-ness to their game where they do need the ball in their hand. And I hope that when Randall comes back, he doesn't hold the ball as long. Sometimes Brunson this season was dribbling the air out of the ball. You know, he was playing hero ball. So I think that, like, respectively, both of them have things that they need to work on for next season. This way, they can complement each other and complement playing together with the remainder of the team. So I don't know. We'll see. I like Kuzma to save money too. But if you want to save money, how does that result in the regular season for this team next year? Right? So you're saving money, great, as this front office has been saving money. You know, they've done a great job getting these contracts at like a really low coupon sale price of contracts. But what does that result in for next season as far as how well does this team do? So if you bring Kuzma over and you get rid of Randall, does that result in a better Knicks team? Does that, will Kuzma and Jalen Brunson play well together? Will they complement each other? You know, I mean, would that work out better than having Julius Randle here? And does this Knicks team be able to give you maybe 60 wins and go to the Eastern Conference Finals and be a contender to go to the finals round? So, like, does saving money result in the team can be a better team? Because, you know, I don't think that you need a star, and I'm not saying Kuzma's a star, but does saving money equal this team is gonna be a good team, a better team rather than they were last year? That's the biggest question that I have when it comes to that. The thing about the draft, it depends on if we choose to draft players this year, then you have to factor in the salary depending on which round they're drafted in. Agreed. Agreed. And with the Knicks already having to pay out Hartenstein, OG, then you have two guys eligible for an extension. It's a lot of money. And the Knicks are trying to avoid the luxury tax and paying over every year. So I think I think this Knicks front office, they have a lot of work. They're gonna be busy this offseason for sure. Salute CC. Minnesota is a small market team that is cash strapped. Getting Randall is better financially, and he also is a better fit for Ant. Why is that? Because of the way Anthony Edwards plays versus the way Brunson plays. It's a better fit with Randall, and versus Randall staying on the Knicks and playing with Brunson. So you saying it would be better having it that way? And you could be right. I'm not disagreeing with you. Maybe that would be a better fit. Um, you know, I think this is a very interesting convo from, you know, everyone in the chat, because some people are willing to saying, let's save some money and, you know, go after a player like Kuzma or someone in that price range who can give you the scoring. And then some people are saying, go in with the big cojones and try to get a player like Karl Anthony Towns and get rid of Randall, or trade Randall. I don't like to use the word get rid of Randall, but trade Randall for a player like Karl Anthony Towns, who you believe will play better on this Knicks team, as he's a versatile player, being able to play center, power forward, and he'll play better with uh, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby. It's very interesting. Dolan has bigger pockets. Yeah, he does. But Dolan wasn't even waking up and swallowing a coffee to have this team winning, which sucks. Cat actually has better percentages all over the court compared to Randall. Yeah. I mean, and the versatility that he can bring as well. I don't know. I think that's a great point that you're making though with Karl Anthony Towns and doing that swap for Randall, because I know that Knicks are not going to be able to keep both, right? If that was an option for the Knicks to get Karl Anthony Towns, they wouldn't be able to do both. So salute Just Knicks. Paul George likes us. I want people who want to be here. Yeah. I I think part of the reason why it won't be hard to bring good players here to this team, few reasons. The way this Knicks team has played, right? And where they've gone, and just watching them, and the way this team, we've seen them been down by 20, 25 points and come back and win games. The way this team can, you know, second chance opportunities, defend, rebound, just the way they play together. I think, and in having a player like Jalen Brunson, it helps to attract players to play here. Now, Paul George, I remember when Randall was on his podcast, and Randall was like, kind of like, trying to tell him, like, yo, if you want to come to New York, like you can come here. But I know the Clippers are going to try to keep him. They're going to try to keep Paul George. But I remember Randall and Paul George was kind of like, yeah, that, that I wouldn't mind that, but I don't know. I don't know. I think that yes, it he would be a great addition for what he can bring to this Knicks team. But and I'm sure he wants to play here, right? He's cool with Randall. A lot of guys would love to come and play with Jalen Brunson as well. The Knicks garnered a lot of attention for what they did. A lot of people were counting them out, thought it was a fluke, and the way this Knicks team, especially because the first round was like pretty boring for the playoffs, but the Knicks Philly series was like really entertaining, and teams was actually getting to see what the Knicks can do. And I think the Knicks especially got a lot of attention because people didn't think the Knicks were going to even get past the first round. A lot of the haters. Then when the Knicks got to the second round, against an arch rival from previous years back in the 90s, that garnered even more attention. And I think they got even more attention for the simple fact that this Knicks team didn't even have a healthy squad. And they still managed to find a way to continue to win and push past all of that, right? And the naysayers. So that spoke volumes. So I don't think it's going to be hard for the Knicks to get any player here, whether it's Paul George, whoever, to come here. I think it's also just a matter of, will these teams be willing to negotiate a trade and letting some of these players go? I would also love to see Mikal Bridges come to the Knicks, but will Brooklyn do it? I don't think so. I don't think the Brooklyn Nets don't like the New York Knicks. I mean, hell, Toronto didn't either, so never say never. They can possibly make it happen, but will they make it happen? We don't know. So I don't know. Randall is actually a mental midget. That's a good one. That's a real good one. That's going cheap on Kuzma would give us a deeper bench like Tyus Jones and Sexton. Yeah, but see, that's the point. I agree with you. I think if Kyle Kuzma could come off the bench, man, that would really make this bench deep. That would make our bench even stronger. And I think that's what this Knicks team need, right? Because again, like I said at the top of this episode, the Knicks front office have to consider, like, use this past season as a lesson learned. It's not to say that this happens every year, but if we sustain an injury to a key guy, whether it's a starter or a bench player, do we have enough or a solid a backup replacement to be able to, you know, fulfill that injured player and could come in and hold it down for however long that may be. And when you look at the Knicks bench, you have Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Deuce McBride, and I'm not sure who would be the fifth other person because right now I think it would be Precious Achua, but this is why I think that the Knicks need to bring in somebody else who can bring in solid scoring. So this way you do have a strong bench as well as somebody who can be a backup point guard. This way you can free up guys like Dante and Deuce and they don't have to bring the ball up. They can go down the court, be ready to get the ball dished to them and they can go to work. So yeah, we'll see what this Knicks team do. I'm looking forward to it as usual. Shout out to the New York Liberty. They beat the Phoenix Mercury yesterday. I was hoping that this was going to happen as Phoenix just came off of playing a back-to-back. They got obliterated the game before 47-70, and then Phoenix came out, played the New York Liberty. This was actually a really good game. The Liberty had me stressed. In typical New York Knicks fashion, the New York Liberty, it's funny because the way that they play, and I had called Diva Locks while the game was on. The New York Liberty have a lot of the same traits as the Knicks. They settle for threes. No one was taking it to the paint. It was almost like watching Knicks again. Like it was traumatizing actually, but I was a little stressed out. Like I couldn't even eat my snack that I was trying to eat while watching the game. But nonetheless, the Liberty pulled out the win 78-81. First quarter, the the Liberties outscored Phoenix 20-33. Not sure what happened in the second quarter as Phoenix was able to chip into it before halftime, 24-14. Third quarter, it's a low scoring quarter. Phoenix had 15, Liberty had 13. Fourth quarter, the Liberty were able to get it together, 19-21. Jonquel Jones finished with 20 points, 7 rebounds. Benijah Laney Hamilton finished with 15 points. Brianna Stewart finished with 13 points, 8 rebounds. But let me tell you something with Brianna Stewart. Brianna Stewart, that's her team. She may have only had 13 points, 8 rebounds. But when I tell you how the Knicks need Jalen Brunson, the New York Liberty need Brianna Stewart. If it wasn't for her long wingspan and her having good hands and being able to catch the ball with one hand when she was getting crappy passes thrown at her and avoiding turnovers, I mean, she was doing the littlest of the littlest things that made the biggest difference in that game yesterday. I mean, hustling down the floor, blocking shots, taking charges, hitting the free throws. Those are what make a superstar and an MVP candidate. And a lot of people last year didn't believe that Brianna Stewart should have won the MVP. They thought it should have went to A'ja Wilson. And it's no disrespect to A'ja Wilson. I like her game. I don't like the Aces because they beat us last year, but I do like A'ja Wilson's game. And she probably will maybe win it this year, right? But Brianna Stewart played a hell of a game yesterday. Sabrina Ionescu had 22 points. She had 9 assists, 6 rebounds, and I believe she contributed to like 20 points off of her assists, which is pretty dope. And Courtney Vandersloot had 5 rebounds, 6 points. Overall, I thought that it was a pretty solid game by the Liberty. Kalia Copper, I told you she was going to go off, and she did just that. She pulled them back in that game in the fourth quarter. She was driving, stopping the clock, and did just that. She had 20 points, 9 rebounds. Sophie Cunningham didn't really go up, but she was a pest. She was annoying certain players like Benijah. Just a lot of flopping by Phoenix as well, also, which was getting under a lot of the New York Liberty players themselves. Sophie Cunningham had 9 points, 6 rebounds. Diana Taurasi hit like 3 threes back to back. Not sure why the defense wasn't on her like that when we were switching. She had way too much space. And Honestly, like Diana Taurasi is a veteran in this league. She could knock down threes. She was shooting them like she was warming up before the game. Not sure why that happened, but she had 14 points, 4 rebounds. Natasha Cloud, she did everything in her power to try to get Phoenix to win this game. She's another one. I mean, it was good defense on her. It was just better offense. She was just having a great game. She had 21 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, but it wasn't enough. Phoenix fell short, so they lost their last two in a row. Um, Nonetheless, the Liberty had to win this game. They did lose their last two, so they had to win today's game. You don't want to go down losing three in a row. So they're now at 5-2. They play again tomorrow against Washington, who the Liberty have already beat twice now. Washington, I believe, are 0-7. They are having a horrible season. And then the Liberty play again on Sunday against Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark again. We've already beat them twice already as well. So I'm expecting them to win these next two games. There should be no reason why you're losing games. Again, the Liberty made it to the finals last year, and I think 20 years, however many years it took them to get to the finals again. I think it was about 20 years, 21 years since they last made it. So that was their first time last year that they made it to the finals in like 20 something years. Like the Knicks, the New York Liberty have pressure and high expectations on them. The New York Liberty organization want a championship here. The New York Liberty must make the finals again. There's no ifs, and buts. You have to make the finals again. You have to go there. I don't care if it's against the Aces. I don't care what team it's against. It's going to be against someone, a top team. It could be the Aces because the Aces are going to try to do a three-peat. They're going to try to win it again and run it back. But either way, I don't care who it's against. You got to go back there again. So the Liberty are still finding their chemistry. They're still fine-tuning their togetherness, and they're going to get there. But stay the course, and they will get there. They're sitting in third right now. Not really worried about standings. I'm just worried about winning the games that you need to win. Don't have to play for a play-in, and get to the championship round. That's all that I'm asking for. I'm not asking for a lot. So we'll see what happens then. AP salute said, I think the Libs get it done. Still wish they were affiliated with the Knicks. Yeah, that's on Dolan. It's unfortunate that he didn't want anything to do with the New York Liberty, and it sucks because they're a New York team, but then you got to go to Barclays to watch them play. It is what it is. But yeah, I think they will get it done. I just think that they have to want it more this season. Last year they lost 2-1 in the finals game, and that last game was just very awkward and weird how they played. So I know that a lot of the players have admitted that they couldn't even really watch the last game because it just was a horrible loss. Root for them. I feel like I'm rooting for the Nets. Yeah, except they're better than the Nets. They're better than them. But yeah, thank you to the chat for rocking with me today. You guys were like on fire with the comments. I love it. I love when you guys are engaging in the comment section, and it gives me, when I'm highlighting the comments, it's a lot of things that I didn't even think of, or it's great points that you all are making. And even when I disagree, it makes for a healthy debate, right? This is a whole community. So like, you guys make this show as well. When you take the time out of your evenings to watch us, like, you don't have to do that, but you choose to come here and listen to Knicks content. And this channel's not about getting the likes and the subscribers. It's truly us speaking Knicks content and how we feel about this Knicks team and what's going on with this New York Knicks team, and the same thing for the New York Liberty. And we just bring it to you real, raw, and unpretentious. Like, that's just what we do here. So again, thank you to the chat for joining. TJ Honablu, Coach SAR617, always checking in. CM67. Who else was here today? Angel Ramos. Parish Duggar, CC, Just Knicks always joining us as well. Pablo Demas, AP, Mike, joined late but salute. Word. Mike joined in at the time. Usually Daraj joins in like right before we're logging off. I love it. It's like he always catches us right before we're about to go off. And salute to you, Daraj. And salute to the replay gang. Those of you who've been watching us, recommending our channel. We appreciate you for watching us and supporting our channel in this Knicks community. We will be watching very closely what happens this off season when it comes down to trades, who's getting paid, and who's getting the hell up out of the Knicks team, right? As far as I'm concerned, I want to see this Knicks team run it back. And if we can bring in one or two players who are able to help us out, I'm all for it. So yeah, until next time, everybody, we will be back. Today's Thursday. We'll be back on Saturday morning. Join us. We'll be back at 10:30, and we'll be talking some more Knicks news. We'll see. We'll see if anything happens from there until now, and if I have like a slideshow to present. If not, but yeah, check you all later. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and have a great one, everybody. Peace.